Welcome to You Write, the podcast where creativity meets community.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Matt.
Each week on You Write, we challenge our listeners to write a story in just 30 minutes, using 3 of 5 randomly generated words.
It's a fun and fast-paced exercise to spark your imagination and get those creative juices flowing.
We'll read your submissions, offer feedback, and discuss the unique twists and turns of each story.
Whether you're an aspiring author or just love a good tale, You Write is your place to explore the endless possibilities of storytelling.
So grab a slab of putty, get comfy, and let's dive into this week's stories.
And remember, your only limit, literally this month, is your imagination. Let's see what you got.
Quite literally.
Quite literally. Well, I suppose 2,000 words as well.
Well,
And that's
true.
that's a kind of soft limit.
And that's
but
a very soft limit.
yeah.
It's a putty-like limit.
Yeah. Putty.
Putty-esque.
Putty-esque, yeah.
Putty-ish.
So what's going on?
Well, today has been an intense day.
It really has. It's been a lot.
It's been a lot.
It's been a thing. Been a thing.
It's been an item.
One item, one whole item.
And one complete item has occurred.
Yes. In its entirety.
In its entirety. And, well, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, we're here now.
Here we are.
And here we are.
Hey, and guess what? And by the way,
yeah.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
No.
Okay, I'm referring to Dana Carvey's impression of Joe Biden on SNL.
Oh.
He's like, oh, and hey, guess what? And by the way,
okay.
which I fucking love. Well, I forgot what I was going to say now. Damn.
Well, hey.
I digress too much.
We're here now.
Yeah, we are. And hey, guess what?
Thought it was a real story.
And by the way, well, all we have really is the present. So as far as the future, well, that doesn't actually exist.
Right.
Although, what do you think I'm going to say?
I don't. I genuinely don't.
All right. Although I have read an article from, what's that one science that doesn't really exist?
Astrology?
No, it's some kind of physics.
That doesn't exist?
It's about things that don't really exist.
Like theoretical physics?
No.
Quantum physics?
Yes, quantum
Does
physics.
exist.
All right. Well, anyway, according to an article that I read by a quantum physicist, which all quantum physicists seem to agree upon, is that time travel to the future is more feasible than time travel to the past.
I think you've said that before.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. That must be like really in my head.
So you're time traveling.
Maybe.
Right now.
Well, the thing I don't get about that is that the past already happened, so therefore it actually did exist. The future has not happened, so therefore it does not actually exist. So I think it's weird that future time travel is more feasible than past time travel, but whatever. I'm not a physicist, so I just gotta trust them.
I also am not a physicist.
Aren't you, though?
No. No, I'm not a physicist. I am fascinated by physics, and specifically quantum physics. I think it's really, really fascinating.
It really is.
It really is.
I love it.
Yeah. Actually, one guy that I work with sent me a picture of the first photographic evidence of entangled electrons.
Shit.
It looks just like yin and yang.
Oh, wow.
It's wild.
That sounds amazing.
It is. Yeah.
Wow.
It's real interesting.
Damn.
And, now we have quantum computing. Or it's in its infancy, but...
Quantum computing.
Computing. Yeah. TM.
Yeah.
Nobody can use that word but us now.
And if you do, you're going to get sued.
It's going to be so
we
expensive.
We going to sue your ass off.
Yeah. Computing.
Computing. All right. Well, so all that to say that we only have the here and now. And so let's embrace it and let's enjoy it.
Yeah. And speaking of the here and now, we had 5 stories.
We did. And I was honestly very pleased with that number.
Yeah.
Seeing as how this is kind of not the 30-minute limit.
Yeah. It's a substantial amount of text. Yeah.
It's quite a bit of text. And I loved it.
Yes.
But the fact, and this is not to discourage other writers by any means, but I found it quite manageable.
Yes, it was you guys, I don't know if you guys organized this, but it was just the right amount of reading.
Did y'all get together? Did y'all plan it?
Are y'all talking behind our backs
Do y'all have a group chat
that we're not a part of?
that you're like, hey guys, which 5 of us are going to write stories this week?
If so, like, that's
Bravo.
some great organization.
Props.
Yeah, mad props.
Amazing.
Turns out there's a subreddit called You Write No Mods.
Right? There might be.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's possible, but I feel like it's more likely that people were just a bit. I feel like the 30-minute limit is usually kind of a plus to our podcast.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because it makes people not feel the pressure to write a shit ton.
Yeah.
So that's why that's our normal rule of thumb. But, we're just doing a different thing this month.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Give you a chance to stretch your legs a little bit and really dive off into something longer or revisit something that you've been working on for a while. And
right. Because it's no limits Bimber.
No limit Bimber.
No limit Bimber. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I had actually sat down in front of some old stories of mine and thought about maybe attempting to continue them, but was immediately daunted by that idea. So I have not submitted anything. So it is a bit daunting, especially revisiting an old work.
Right.
I don't know what it is about drudging up something you've already done and trying to either add to it or edit it, like polish it.
Somehow, this is going to sound weird, but somehow I prefer that to trying to add to a recent work.
Really?
Yeah. Because I just feel more objective.
Okay.
And like I could look at it with like fresh eyes. And because it's almost like when I look at something that I wrote, say 20 years ago, I'm not ancient, guys. I promise. But then I'm like a different person. So it's almost like this person wrote this and now I'm going to like add to it.
You're like, man, this person was kind of a dummy.
No, I'm like, this person was sick bitch. And actually, the last thing that I wrote for last week did have elements of something that I wrote 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I never mentioned that, but yes.
Wow.
I didn't want anyone to know. But now you all know.
So you aren't a different person. Are you smelling the microphone again?
In that respect, I'm the same person.
Yes. You've always smelled the microphones.
I've always been that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, whose story are we reading?
Oh shit, we're reading one?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
We're gonna try.
Well, okay, so we're reading Life on the Lot by the Prismatics 19.
Yes, and without further ado, Life on the Lot. I consider myself a patient man. It takes a lot to get me riled, and that does me just fine. It can't be in my genes. Both sides of my family are famous for their temper. I've done a lot of work on getting that in check, and I find it easy to slow down, take a deep breath, and prevent my veins from turning into boiling kettles. I pride myself on my ability to take whatever shit the world is rolling downhill at me. To be honest, I've been taking that shit for years, and I haven't lost my temper in a very long time. What I'm about to write here is more my way of therapy, getting the demons out after they've been locked up for so long. Granddad was the worst when it came to having a short fuse. He was a coal mining man by trade, and if his kids or wife got out of hand, as he called it, he would blow the old smokestack as quick as a bolt of lightning finds its way crashing to the earth. He'd stand, one hand pressed to his undoubtedly aching back, the other pointed in the direction of the shed, and he'd start screaming, "Y'all best settle down, or I'll get my hammer and brain every fucking one of ya." And they would stop, because my granddad was crazy. My father told me that a couple of times he'd come out of his room to use the bathroom and seen Granddad in the kitchen holding his hammer, admiring it. A 4-foot ash handle held up a 10-pound sledge head like Atlas held the world. 20 years of coal mining had done little but leave a few scratches on that stoic metal, and 20 more years would have accomplished little more of the same. Granddad never got that chance, though. Emphysema, caused by coal dust and a 2-pack-a-day habit, stopped his working life only 10 years before it stopped his actual life. He didn't have much to live for after he stopped working. Grandma had run off earlier that year, so he just sat in his house alone. He smoked Camel's bare ass, his turn of phrase for unfiltered, watched Fox News, and wasted away till there was nothing left of him but a husk of dust and stink. By the time Granddad died, I was 25. I've been dragging his name through the mud a bit here, but the crazy wasn't all there was to him. He took a shine to me, his only grandson, and left me everything in his will. Hell, he even told me he loved me as he was dying. It was the only time his family had heard him say those 3 blessed words, as long as they could remember. Don't know how I feel about that. You see, Granddad left me his house, making me a landowner in an age where many young people never dream of being one, and a pretty solid car. And that's let me do something rare for my area of the country. I work a job that I like, instead of one that pays the bills. I understand, I got very lucky, but the truth is I have no bills besides my monthly utilities. My chosen profession is being a manager at a local truck stop, getting paid $18 an hour. That allows me to save a bit each month while still being able to support my hobbies. It's a stressful job at times, but nothing I can't handle, and I do genuinely like the work. The only part I don't like is dealing with the problem customers, but none in my experience get even close to the prick I'm about to tell you about. He stood about 5'0", and might have weighed all of 100 pounds fresh out of the pool. We had seen this man a few times before, and he chatted to me occasionally while I had a smoke in Granddad's car. He walked into the stop at 1 a.m. with an air of authority that was unearned, and his eyes were anchored by bags that undoubtedly formed from a few too many speed pills. My coworker that night, Sarah, called me to the front as soon as he showed up because, after a while in this business, you get a nose for trouble. I obliged and busied myself with some minor inventory tasks on the sales floor to keep an eye out. That's when the trouble started. Sarah shrieked from the coffee bar to, "Get your hands off me, you creep!" I rushed over to see this man playing grab ass with her. "Oh, come on, don't be like that," he said, sneering. "I feel at these stores all the time. Can't I get a little extra service?" I put my bulky frame between the two of them at once and looked down into the man's face. "Sir, I think it's best you leave before we call the cops. We don't tolerate that kind of behavior," I said, putting on my best boss voice. "Oh, so that's how it's going to be," he slurred. "I give you people my money for years. You're losing a customer of some whore?" I took a step forward, pressuring him to go back a pace, and said, "I don't care how much money you spend here. If you're going to treat my employees like that, we don't want your business. Get out. Final warning." He looked at me as though I had slapped him in the face with a sack of wet shit. Yelled some more about where I could put this store and what I could do with my job once he went to corporate. I smiled and told him to have a good day. Altogether, not an unusual interaction with a bad customer. 2. I went out for my cigarette break about an hour later, and that's when everything changed. Granddad's car, which I kept in pristine condition, was destroyed. All 4 tires had been perforated with holes, tracing the outside of each one with trypophobic nightmares. The side of the car has been dug into with what looked like several keys, leaving a jagged calligraphy that sent my mind spiraling. A wet stain led from the gas cap to the pavement below, and upon further inspection, smelled strongly of urine. I knew at once who did it, and my first thought was to call the police to see if they could catch him. But that wasn't good enough. We don't have camera coverage of the employee parking lot. and the case would be circumstantial at best. If I wanted to ensure this man got justice, I was going to have to take matters into my own hands. I smoked a cigarette to calm my nerves and radioed inside to tell Sarah that I was going to run the perimeter trash. This nightly duty normally involves just driving our golf cart around to various trash cans that sit on the edge of the lot, taking weeks off refuse from truck drivers, who, on the whole, are not the cleanest lot. I would go about this task the same as I always did, but first I grabbed something from the trunk. You see, I didn't just get a house and a car from Granddad after he died. I also inherited his hammer. 3. I had started keeping the hammer in the trunk of Granddad's car when we were remodeling our stop. I used it for demolition, for setting studs, and for breaking up troubling pieces of concrete in the floor. Boy, was I glad I didn't put it back in the shed. I found the asshole half buried in his truck, parked deep in the back corner of our lot where the lights didn't reach. On my approach, he unfolded himself from the engine and started screaming, "Hey, I need a wrecker. My truck won't start, and my phone's dead. Give me a tow so I can leave this place in my rear view." That was when I threw the wrench, a heavy thing made of pure iron. It rocketed through the air, doing cartwheels as it went, and connected solidly with the center of his face. He went sprawling off of the wheel of his truck and landed hard on his back, driving the wind out of him. I walked to him slowly, hammer in hand, not worried about anyone being able to see this act of violence. Life on the lot is strange in that way. Most truckers couldn't be awoken from a sleep by an atomic bomb, let alone a little backwoods justice being doled out. And if they did see, 9 out of 10 wouldn't say a damn word. I've seen some sick shit in the back of the lot, but most of it never made it to daylight. My regulars know that. Around these parts, sometimes a man handles his own. I grabbed the man by the collar and dragged him around behind his truck, where a dirt embankment led down to a small pond. When I laid him down in the dark behind his vehicle, he finally began to stir and plead. To be honest, I couldn't make any of it out. His face had become something of a pudding, lips split from the impact of the wrench and teeth falling out as he tried to speak. "You shouldn't have done that," I said, and lifted the hammer. It came whistling down with speed and precision that seemed to come natural to me, and landed squarely on the man's kneecap. The connective tissue inside the body gave way immediately, and turned the knee into a mess of flesh and shards of bone, like an acupunctured peach that had been left to rot. He might have screamed. I can't recall for sure. I was in such a state of rage that I passed full circle into being calm as a windless lake. By the time I realized what was happening, the hammer was above my head again, and when it came down again, the man's head exploded into a violent fireworks display of blood and gore. The body kicked and spasmed for a few minutes, spilling its vital juices all over the dirt, and I smoked while I watched. It was interesting to see a man die, and in so violent a fashion. By the time it was over, my cigarette was down to the filter, and my back hurt. I knew I had to clean up before my back seized entirely. I placed the remains in one of our industrial-sized garbage bags, then decided to double bag to reduce the chances of him surfacing anytime soon. I filled the bag the rest of the way with a kitty litter-like substance that we used to clean up diesel spills, and dragged him down to the pond. It took a minute to find my grip, and a few swings back and forth to get momentum. Finally, I released him, and he went a good 10 feet out into the pond and sank without ceremony. Using a shovel, I turned the soil where the act had taken place and got back in my golf cart. I changed into a spare uniform back in the showers, using one of the emergency doors in the back to not arouse suspicion. I put my old clothes, now soaked with another man's blood, into the bottom of the dumpster. It was easy. You'd be surprised what you can get away with when you know a place like the back of your hand. Later on, when the morning shift showed up, I pretended to be mad about the car, but I didn't file a police report. No cameras, no proof, and besides, the guy was probably hundreds of miles away by now. I sure am glad I didn't inherit my family's temper.
Damn.
Dadgum. Granddad gum.
I like that. Granddad gum.
Granddad gum.
Granddad gum. Okay, so I quite enjoyed that story.
Same.
Yeah, I felt like it was Very intense, very well written. You know what's funny is that well, since my psychological breakdown in February, I
Okay.
I mean, it's getting better, but I will find myself like gripping,
Like tense.
like tensing up my body, and I will not even realize I'm doing it. Well, it's gotten less and less, but after reading the story, like towards the last paragraph, I realized that I was doing that. I was like tensing up my whole body, like flexing my abs and like kind of almost holding my breath. And I realized I was doing that. And I was like, wow, this had a strong effect on me physically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I had a similar reaction. Just I like how much time we give to setting up the relationship with Granddad,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that we pay off some of these details later, and how many similarities we get between Granddad and our point of view character, who we don't actually ever get their name, just the first person I.
Yeah, I really do appreciate and like that setting up of Granddad.
Yeah, it goes.
I feel like that does a lot for the story.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's constantly drawing parallels between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not immediately obvious, but they are often enough and yet still subtle enough that it's not hitting you over the head with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just drawing you. It's giving you the opportunity to draw that comparison in several places. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just think it's very well paced. I like that we break in 3 places, and I like the middle one because it's setting up the change that happens,
right,
bringing on this rage, and you give it its own. You give it the space in the middle, and you set it apart from everything around it to clue us into this turn
yes,
that we're embarking on.
I feel like it was almost professionally paced, honestly.
It really kind of reeks of professionalism.
It really kind of does. Yeah.
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 Also, have you ever heard of the word trypophobia?
I had not.
I had not either.
Mm-mm.
I looked it up, and then I suddenly realized that anybody who suffers from trypophobia must just be terrified the whole time they're watching the movie Holes.
Wait, I have heard of trypophobia. I don't remember. I think I was reading an article about like weird phobias or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I read about that one, trypophobia, and it's a fear of holes.
So yeah, the movie Holes would be just horrifying.
Right.
And I imagine the moon would be its own special terror.
Yeah. Wow, trypophobia. I mean, how would one get trypophobia? Maybe I don't want to know.
Yeah, because once you know, then maybe you actually have always had it.
Yes, yes.
Or you just develop it.
Trypophobia. Huh. Do you have anything illogical that when it happens or when you see it or experience it, you just like freak out?
Illogical?
Mm-hmm. Like something that doesn't make sense.
Man, if I do, I can't think of it. So I think I'm a fairly level-headed person.
Uh-huh.
I'm not freaking out is not something I'm known for.
Right. I don't know you for that.
I don't know me for that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of times that I did freak out. Okay, so one example of whenever I freaked out, I had a very difficult part to play in orchestra,
mm-hmm.
and it just wasn't working. It wasn't working. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't get the part to click. It's a very important part. It's a very difficult piece to play. It's a very famous piece.
Right.
And it's very well known, and I just couldn't nail this one part.
Mm-hmm.
That was Don Juan, I believe. We were playing by Strauss.
Yeah.
And there was a particular part. It's like this weird triplet scale up, and it crosses.
Triplet.
Yeah, it's like a digga kind of line. Just very simple, but it changed every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially combining 2 scales.
Okay.
And I just could not for the life of me wrap my head around it. And I, during rehearsal, freaked out enough that I actually had to get up and leave. I was just like, I just couldn't take it. Like, that's the most recent example I can think of a freak out.
Okay. Well, I mean, but that kind of makes sense a little bit.
Yeah,
That's not
it's like a
an
panic attack.
illogical. I have seen you freak out before.
Yes, but that I don't think I can't define that instance as illogical.
No, it's logical. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because of the circumstances surrounding what happened. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
When I threw you out of the house?
no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm talking about another instance. Because I didn't even feel like you freaked out at that point. I've seen you literally freak out.
Is it when we got robbed?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's not illogical either.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I've seen you freak out, but it wasn't illogical.
Yeah.
But tryptophobia is illogical.
Like hyper illogical. Yeah.
Yes. Or it might be that there's trauma involving holes.
Oh, God. Let's not pursue that.
No, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
that would make sense.
And it was weird Googling it, the tryptophobia, the image that it comes up with. Like some of the images, it's a hand that looks like it's like full of holes. And another one is like, it looks like a beehive. It's very odd. I've never heard of that. But yeah, we're just going to continue down this rabbit hole of tryptophobia and how we've never heard of this. And well, I guess Rachel's heard
Correction,
of it.
I had heard of it.
Rachel had heard of it. Yeah, it was a brand new word to me, so I learned a new phobia.
Yay.
Yay.
So yeah, I really liked the pacing of it. I really liked all the details, all of the backstory. I felt like it worked really, really well. And it was surprising because starting out, it's like I'm level-headed and I did not get that from my family. It can't be in my genes. So you set it up to make us think that this character is going to be like a calm person. But then you see what this person does.
Yeah, and it was all revolving around memories or objects from his history with his granddad.
Right.
Who would go off the handle like this.
Exactly.
Fly off the handle like this.
Exactly. So this person is not very self-aware.
No, not especially by the end of it. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure glad I didn't inherit my family's temper, he said after he just murdered a man after throwing a wrench in his face and beating him to death with a 10-pound sledgehammer.
Ouch.
Yeah. Ouch. Also the description of the whole scene at the end, the murder was visceral and
It really was.
very, very clearly described. And yeah, there were so many parts I was just like, yikes, oh God, ouch. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where we really start to see a lot of these all these ties that we're drawing between Granddad and our narrator.
And you know, that makes me wonder, is the point of view character a serial killer? Because they seem to speak, he seems to speak as though, oh yeah, nobody would like even look at this, you know, on this lot. And it makes me think, oh, okay, he's done something like this before.
Or yeah, it could be that, considering he's the manager of the lot that he's doing all this on, he is very familiar with the surroundings, so he may just be particularly well prepared for this crime of passion, I guess you could call it. So he has all of the necessary tools and things to pull this off and not get caught, or at least not right away, you know.
Right.
But I'm like you. It could stem. This could maybe be the beginning of serial killing. Realizes how
Easy it is.
how easy it is
to get away with it.
Yeah, and maybe he's enjoyed especially the line that we get about how calm he was.
Right.
He was so. Oh, I'm gonna find it. I was in such a state of rage that I passed full circle into being calm as a windless lake.
Mm-hmm.
Just that, for what it's worth, I'm familiar with that type of like calm rage.
Right.
Like I'm not a stranger to that emotion. It's very, very rare.
Mm-hmm.
But just describing it like that, like that's like peak rage.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, yeah, that quiet just is horrifying. And I highlighted that and said, yikes, that's scary. Like being calm about that is upsetting.
And to kind of do like a throwback to many episodes ago, I am fascinated by this rage because
Yeah.
I don't experience that kind of rage, and I would like to. I think it would be great. Rage is just not my go-to emotion.
Do you find it ironic that your Reddit handle is Wook against the machine, where Wook is a substitute for rage against the machine?
Yes.
Okay.
I find it very ironic.
I hate using the word ironic because I'm almost
Because you're always
certain.
like, did I use it right?
Yeah, I'm like certain every time. It's like, no, that's wrong.
That is irony, actually. That is. It is.
Hmm.
I confirm that is irony.
Okay.
But, well, it's really not that weird, though, because since my name is actually Rachel, you know.
Okay.
Rage instead of
against-
rage. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I love that calm expression of rage.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I admire that.
Odd thing to admire.
I desire to emulate that. Just joking, not really, but I think it's really cool. And so whenever he's like, my regulars know that around these parts, sometimes a man handles his own. That gives me the impression that he has done something like this before.
Yeah, or it may just be a quality of truckers that they'll just deal with shit as it comes up. Since this is a truck stop, it could just be like a. But yeah, I agree. You could certainly get the idea that maybe he did this in the past, or maybe he goes into like a fugue state. Like maybe this was a fugue state that we saw, and he has no recollection of ever having done this in the past. So
that'd be cool.
That'd be pretty rad.
Yeah. Like, do whatever the fuck you want, suffer no consequences.
Yeah, pass a lie detector test at the end. Yeah,
that's right.
He's hundreds of miles down the road.
Yeah.
And actually, that I could actually read it that way by the way that he describes telling his employees he didn't file a police report. Yeah, his car was keyed, but he didn't do anything. He's well on down the road at this point. So
right. And honestly, like when I read that line about sometimes a man handles his own, I expected that this would not end in the trucker being murdered.
Right.
So
yeah.
I expected it was just going to be like, I'm going to teach him a lesson, you know?
Yeah.
But then when it was like, okay, and then I brought the hammer down on his head, I was like, oh shit, he's not going to survive that.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought, because he hits him in the knee first, and I was like, okay, well, there's the lesson.
Right.
And no.
It's like, no.
No. Just a little suffering.
You're not going to survive this, actually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a genuine surprise. Mm-hmm. I was like, I thought it was just going to be now you listen here, you little shit.
Right.
Yeah. But no. Nope.
But no.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent entry. And this sounds like you could certainly cap this here, but I could definitely see how this could go places.
It could.
Yeah, and considering all the setup and characterization that you gave us of our narrator, their profession, and the types of people, and the different types of people that would inevitably come through a truck stop.
Yes.
I can imagine there's a gold mine of things to.
This is like a vigilante justice type of guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But great story, Prismatics 19.
Very good.
Very, very good.
Quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
All right, so I think it's time now for us to move on to Ray of Hope by Walker by Faith. So here we get a kind of a prequel.
Yes.
To what led up to Max's actions.
Yes.
Thoughts?
This is a lot of what I was looking for from this story is the motivations for our characters. And I feel like we're very clearly fleshing those out here just by giving the circumstances that led to the events that we've been reading about up to this point. And Ray does not come off good in this. I kind of am okay with Ray being tied up in the basement now.
Same.
Like, oh my gosh,
but
she's
guess who also doesn't come out looking good?
Max.
But my reasoning is A, she's clearly even more psycho than we thought.
Yes.
But B, why would you want this woman to be producing your offspring?
I think it goes back to exactly what we were talking about. She is so desperate.
Yeah, but she's like, if you're going to be a psychopath and choose somebody to bear your child, why somebody this fucking stupid and annoying?
Not only that, but just the way that she talked about adoption was like made my skin crawl. Like, how dare you even speak about about adoption in this way, especially to somebody who is actively considering adoption. Like, how ignorant and how oblivious do you have to be to talk about something that somebody is so clearly desperate for a child? They're considering adoption in this way. Like, what a terrible thing to say. And genuinely, I feel like what a terrible person for even like considering saying that.
To me, even more than her being a terrible person, she seems like a complete moron.
And seems to enjoy being the idiot. Like, she gets off on that.
That's true. There's a lot of people like that who are like, I'm the dumb girl. I'm the Debs. I'm the bimbo.
Have you ever seen Modern Family?
Yes.
We just started it, and it reminds me of Haley.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's like very manipulative because people don't expect her to know what's going on, so she just manipulates people into doing things for her or doing
Yeah. But people are going to keep being like that as long as other people let them get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
so it's almost like you can't even blame that person. You can blame everybody else. It's kind of like if you want your leader to be a fascist, you know, you can't really blame the fascists. That's just how they are. You blame everybody who wanted the fascists to be in control.
Yeah, that diffusion of responsibility.
Just the fact that the people with brains should be the ones drawing the line.
That assumes that people have them.
Right. So, among the people that I hang out with, somebody like Ray would not be accepted into.
Yeah, just based off of this alone, no, she's not coming to game night.
Right.
Yeah, that's a hard no for me.
Right.
And I guess moving beyond Ray, who really does kind of steal the show, despite this all being in Max's perspective, we do get the circumstances for the fight that that Max and Sam had on the episode where it was the recording, talking about that woman, Sarah, hanging all over him at the Christmas party. I think this is that Christmas party.
Yes.
That she's hanging all over
him. Yeah.
So we get to see that scene, or at least I believe that's what we're seeing here.
Right.
And yeah, just filing all of that we've read about so far. We get that, and then we get all this characterization, backstory, and the circumstances for what we've been reading. I just thought that this was very, very well handled. Like, I like that we're getting so much context to what we've been reading about, all in one scene.
Right.
Yeah, without ever leaving this party.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's very explicatory, explationary. Explanative. That's the word. This explains a lot. Explains a whole lot.
All of that to say.
And also, it explains to me too why Max was like, I don't care about tying up this bitch in my basement.
Yeah, I'm struggling to figure out who I'm rooting for. Should I root for any of these people, or is this just feels like a house of fire? Like,
to me, between the three, Ray, Max, and Sam, the most relatable character, or what's the word? Empathetic character. What am I looking for?
I mean,
the
it's
character
tough.
that I feel for the most is Sam.
Yeah, and that's okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Because Max is clearly a psychopath, and the reason that I know that for sure now is because at the end, whenever Ray was like drunk and she was like, yeah, and Max was like tearing up and like, you would do that for me? It's like, wow, you're delusional.
Yes.
And then Ray is a fucking moron. Sam is not amazing, but he's the least of three evils to me.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Pick your devil. And the worst thing that we've seen about Sam so far is he's a little lazy.
Right.
Which, I mean, if it's Sunday afternoon, so am I. But
if it's any afternoon, so am I.
Okay.
So I feel that.
And So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Sam because I tend to agree, and the fact that he's the only point of view that we have not had so far makes me think that either A, that could be the direction that we're going, or
Mhm.
B, we're going to get his point of view and we're going to learn he's also a total piece of shit.
Right.
And then we're just going to have nobody left to root for him.
Then we're going to hate everybody and there's going to be no protagonist.
Well, and at that point, it could just be like watching a train wreck.
Right.
Just seeing how these three main characters that we have, Ray, Sam, and Max, bounce off of each other.
Right. So we agree about Sam, but between Max and Ray, who most deserves to die between the two?
To die?
Die.
No one deserves to die.
But if you had to choose one to sacrifice,
to
which one would you choose?
Well, I would. My knee-jerk reaction is to say Max because she did put somebody in danger.
Right. I agree with you because
especially drugging somebody.
No, I agree with you because even though Ray is obnoxious, Max is actually a danger to society.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to execute one, it would probably be Max.
Oh, why did it have to be execute?
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's but no, I tend to agree.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Ray could be redeemable. It's possible. So the whole interaction between all these women, we get several characters that we haven't met before, but like the interactions between them all, and I like kind of the internalities that we get of Max. I like the line, "I'm fucked," Max thought, as you hear, "Oh my God, Katie, this party is like the best one like all year." Right. "I'm fucked," Max thought.
And that to me made Max relatable.
Yes.
But, well, it turns out she's some type of sociopath.
Exactly. We are doing a lot to complicate and try to empathize with Max.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing what we know and seeing how she handles being given this information, or I say information, heavy air quotes, that Ray would have their kid for them.
Right.
Just seeing the way she handles that, it's hard to have a lot of sympathy for that.
No, it's like she is in the state of delusion of a kind of a person that would kidnap a pregnant woman and cut the baby out. You know?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of scary.
Yeah.
Somebody that's willing to like do that kind of harm. So I feel like Max, more than anything else, has to be stopped.
Yeah.
And I've got to stop her.
Okay. Ray would bear Max a baby. She had promised, after all. It's a great way to leave us, especially knowing what we know. And I'd be curious to know if you're planning on slotting this in the same order with what we've read before, or if you if you plan on, I don't know, structuring this more chronologically. Yeah, I'd be curious to know, because I think this actually worked really well, giving us all the setup, and then we go back and it's like, oh, but Max, we can actually really empathize with Max. Also, look how terrible a person Ray is. Like, I like this forcing us to re-examine your characters that we thought we already knew. I think that's very cool.
I concur.
Oh, by the way, sure, it's like no big, right? I mean, I just put your spermed up egg in my belly, and 9 months later, I think spermed up needs to be a hyphenate.
Okay, yeah. I took exception to that term. I am not okay with that. Nope, that's disgusting, and it makes me think that Ray actually does deserve to die.
Just for your spermed up egg.
Yeah, like a spermed up egg on my belly, and I thought about, and here's the Ray. I was like, all right, okay,
self-obsessed and just egocentric. Yeah. Oh.
Walker, is this a burn to me? Because I have referred to myself as Ray.
You have, and you do have a tendency to say like a few times, so.
Okay, well, guess what, Walker? I'm not that stupid.
I don't think he's saying that.
Well, I would never say spermed up. Ew.
Just that's nasty. Why? Thank you, Walker by Faith.
Thank you.
And I'll be very curious to see where we go from here.
Same.
Okay, so here we have The Evolution of Everything by Steve Livingroom.
And this installment is The Evolution of Religion
By Steve Livingston.
That's right.
Yes.
So we got 2 different titles, 2 different people.
Yeah, 2 authors, 2 titles.
Right.
Yes.
So.
So Steve, I think we're gonna do a kind of gloves off for this as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose just starting here at the top. So the first sentence: Silas watched people go in and out of the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Christian churches in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but that just feels confusing for some reason. Reading it out loud, it sounds fine. Where I first read it, it just felt a little confusing. Any ideas, or is it just me?
Honestly, I think that when I first read it, I also felt that it was kind of wordy.
Maybe that's all it was. Yeah.
But when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, could you have worded it differently to make it more direct? And I don't really know that you could have, because you could have left out the word Christian, because church kind of implies a Christian establishment, the word church, as opposed to temple or synagogue.
Also, Our Lady Mary of Zion is pretty clearly rooting us into Catholicism.
Yes, totally. Yeah, so I think to make it a little bit more simple, you could have left out the word Christian. One of the oldest, if not the oldest churches in the world. It is a bit wordy. So, because yes, Lady Mary, that's of Zion, that's obviously a Christian thing.
Yeah.
And
even Catholic?
I believe that this is an Orthodox church.
Okay.
Because Ethiopian Orthodox is, well, as kind of is alluded to in the story, one of the oldest Orthodox churches, which Orthodoxy came before Catholicism.
Yeah. And despite my having no real knowledge of that, I very clearly gathered that this is an old church with old beliefs.
Right.
Just by all the various context clues that we get, including the Ark of the Covenant. So I was like, okay, this is ancient.
Right.
One of the first.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
This type of shit excites me.
Yeah, it's very cool.
This is some ancient shit.
Yeah, I love the history of it. Yeah.
I fucking love it. I love it so much. But here's the thing. Tense.
Yeah, man.
Okay. Right here we have, he studies the faces and expressions, trying to measure how happy they were. Studies is present simple. He has spent days reading individual faces. That is present perfect. Those two go together.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
But before that, we have Silas watched. That's the first line of the story. Watched. That's past simple.
Yeah.
And so what follows should be in the past simple. It should be he studied the faces. And then he has spent should be in the past perfect. It should be he had spent.
Yeah, had spent. Yeah.
Or you can change the first verb to watches.
Yeah.
Silas watches people go in and out. He studies the faces. He has spent present perfect. That's fine. But just choose one.
Right. Yeah.
This is really necessary because there are many times where it literally will throw the reader off and they'll be like, wait, are we in the right now or are we in the before?
Yeah. And it is confusing, especially when a tense change falls in the middle of a paragraph. It's off-putting. And just like Rachel said, it sort of derails the reader because we had clearly been in this tense and so much. I would say, okay, if you're having doubts about what tense to pick, past.
Right.
Just tell it in past tense. That's by far
tense.
The most common tense to tell a story. It's just in the past tense.
Right.
Present tense is not uncommon, but it's certainly not nearly as common as past tense.
But the main thing is consistency.
Yes.
Whatever you choose, you just have got to be consistent with it, unless for a stylistic reason, you're changing tenses, which happens. But these tenses... this is not a stylistic change. Like, he watched the people, He studies the faces he has spent. And then the next verb, but he couldn't. That's past simple again.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have these two verbs, which are in past simple and present simple and present perfect. And then you go back to the past tense. So you really should choose one.
Yeah. Okay, moving beyond tense.
Yes.
There was this line here in the first paragraph, not much of a scientific experiment. I would say science experiment. Makes more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Small thing. Moving along, Silas was a journalist, but right now he was trying to find his place in the world. His brain was usually constantly working from all points. I say pick one.
That's right. I agree with that.
It's either usually working or it's constantly working.
Right.
I have a hard time reconciling both of those together.
You can't.
It feels like they're like fighting each other
They
in my
are.
brain. Usually, constantly.
You can do that.
60% of the time, it works every time.
This would only work if you were doing like a stream of consciousness type of thing.
Yeah.
Usually, constantly, every once in a while, maybe. But if you're trying to do like a coherent thing, you need to have either usually or constantly.
Yeah. You got to pick one of those.
Right.
Yeah, and we get tense there at the end again. We move back to present tense at the end of that paragraph.
Yes. Okay, so, all right, here's one thing. In part 2, Silas is now sitting in possibly the oldest church in the world. So first I'd like to say I love that setting.
Yes, yeah. It's a beautiful setting.
It's a beautiful setting. It's very mysterious, compelling. I love it. This is like the kind of place that I love to go and just like get lost in. So I love that.
And the fact that it's a real place.
Right.
Like you can look up this church and get an idea of where we are in this story. Yeah.
Yes.
That does a lot to root your reader.
Right. I love that. In the second paragraph of part 2, as a journalist, Silas should always be thinking of the story that is happening around him. And what an amazing story the Ark of the Covenant and the Ten Commandments would make, yet he is a mess. You might already know that. The word you here really pulled me out of the enchanted setting because I was just completely like bewitched by the setting. And then the word you, and I'm like, wait a second. Why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't want to come out of this story. I don't want to be back in reality right now.
Yeah, I am with Silas right now.
Yes.
And to bring me into this setting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, no, not me. I want to keep watching this.
Yeah, and simultaneously, it forces us to consider, okay, so who's narrating this to us and when and why?
Right.
And so we are being told this story with the word you outside of dialogue. Yeah.
Yep. I really I just want that whole sentence to disappear. I don't think there's any way to say that sentence in a way that would not like snatch me out of the story. All right. So the part where you said he misses his strong faith, it really reminded me of on the Golden Compass.
Oh, yeah.
His Dark Materials.
Oh,
is that right?
Philip Pullman?
Yes.
Yeah.
He misses his strong faith. Do you know what I'm referring to?
No. What were you going with that?
I can't remember the name of the creatures, but they're elephant-like, and they discovered some plant pods, which are like wheels, and they attach them.
Yes. I do remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they attach them to their bodies, and it makes them just like way more mobile.
Yeah.
And anyway, this physiologist or something, Mary Malone, she went to their world somehow and discovered them and bonded with them. She used to be a nun, Mary Malone, but she had basically denounced her faith. She had, done a lot of science and been like, my faith is not true, blah, blah, blah. And she said, or she had an inner conversation with herself where she was like, she missed her assurance of her faith that her faith gave her. She missed her faith. She missed this like intimacy that she had with God and the assurance that her faith afforded her. And so whenever I read this, where it says he misses his strong faith,
it does Yeah,
Steve,
it
is that
really
what you're referring to?
It really calls on that. Yeah.
It really does. But then again, it could very well be just a like separately occurring phenomenon.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's interesting you mentioned that because of the criticisms that we're getting about Christianity here.
Yes.
And a lot of, well, I don't want to say a lot of, part of what Golden Compass and his Dark Materials is about is this examination and criticism of, I guess, just Christianity. It's not necessarily called out as Christianity. And in my read of Golden Compass and his Dark Materials, I thought it was overthrowing a false god.
Mm-hmm.
That was the message I got from it. And then I start reading that, oh no, it's actually the downfall of God as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was more of an overthrow of a false god. Either way.
Well, in the deep dive that I took into Pullman,
Mhm.
it's really about Catholicism specifically.
Just Catholicism.
Well, specifically Catholicism.
Interesting.
Because he was apparently, went to a Catholic school growing up and thought it was bullshit and super bitter.
Yeah.
And all that stuff.
So this will bring up a interesting philosophy for me. I very rarely will dive into reviews or examinations of books that I like. I take my interpretation as it is, and that's it. That's what I'll take from it. I don't really care for other people's opinions on another author's work.
Mm-hmm.
Same goes for movies to a large extent.
Mm-hmm.
There are some that I'm so fascinated with that I really do want to know what other people think about it.
Right.
But in general, I am not interested in somebody else's opinion on a work of fiction, nonfiction, a movie, whatever it may be, including the authors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not interested in your opinion of your work.
Mm.
I'm just interested in your work.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a strong tendency to separate the art from the artist.
You sound like a classicist.
Maybe so.
You definitely sound like a classicist.
Okay, so then I am a classicist. So, but that being said, I do think that there is room to grow for myself by being open to other people's opinions about stories and not letting it impact my enjoyment of what I've taken from something.
Yeah.
There are areas that I can expand my understanding of some of these stories by getting information from outside, but for what it's worth, I do very much separate the art from the artist and from others enjoying the art as well.
Right.
So, because I feel like it's all very personal.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of keep it that way.
I think that's respectable and totally valid. And again, you sound very much like a classicist because the classicists are like, this is the work, period. The author does not exist.
All right. We're going off the rails here.
Sorry about that.
Let's Steve, how do you do this to us? How do you drive us so far off of the rails every week?
How do you do it? I would like to say something about content, though. I felt that the character of Reverend Gurma was a bit, I mean, I know this is like just now starting out or whatever, but was a bit of a prop character.
Yeah.
In order to set up Silas to give a sermon. I felt that it's almost like Silas is going under the ruse of a confused person, but he really just wants a foot in to get on his soapbox and give his spiel. That's what it felt like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel, and I hate even considering using this word. It feels a little contrived.
That's what I was thinking. And I was like, hey, self-literature, fictional literature is contrived. But yes, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it feels too clean. Like everything just like lands one to the next, to the next, to the next. And you're right. I probably wouldn't feel that way if we had more background with Reverend Gurma and the situation that we're in and how Silas was here in the first place. So that being said, I do feel like we are kind of in the middle of something. So this may not feel this way if we have what came prior to this. So we are missing a lot, I feel like.
That's true, but to me, it's either give more back and forth between him and Gurma or have Silas being a preacher and giving a sermon. Because Silas does end up giving a sermon. So if that
Yeah.
were just directly like, here is Silas the preacher giving a sermon, that might work and then have some type of conflict after that, or more back and forth between him and Germa. But the way it is stated, it does seem contrived.
Yeah, a little bit. And again, I'm kind of taking it with a grain of salt because we're not sure the circumstances that led Silas here, and we kind of get an inkling about that at, I think, literally the last sentence. Silas thought back to how this trip first came into his brain, which is where we leave off. A little abrupt, but just the same. I don't think that we know everything about what's going on here, so we may just be getting a very small piece,
Snippet.
this little snippet that is keeping us from understanding this to the degree that I think Steve may have written this out.
Yeah, maybe so. I think that overall, I absolutely love Steve's setting and the whole backdrop of everything. I just think that it needs to be like a bit more believable.
I'm sorry, Steve. We have to move on.
We do.
I'm so sorry.
Damn.
Thank
we
you,
do.
thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
It was a very thought-provoking story, and it really
And I
got
feel
my.
like it has a lot of potential and a lot of places to go.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yes. All right, so it's now time to move on to Richie Posher with Untitled. So we have, this is a prequel to something that he did before.
Yeah, and we've had a couple stories from this collection of stories with Nick in it.
Yes.
So I actually made a character list off to the side because there were just enough people I couldn't keep them all straight in my head.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that all of these people are related except for
Jess?
Oh, wait. I don't know about Jess, but Lena for sure.
Yeah, and Lena, yeah.
Because Lena is the ex of Nick.
Yeah, some old flame.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jess, I don't know who she is. I don't know if she's like a sister of Nick or what. I don't know.
Yeah, she's almost mentioned in passing and then leaves, and we don't get any more from Jess. But yeah, Lena, Nick, Uncle Benny, also kind of a tertiary character. And then Moira is Mama, and Paul is Papa. So once I had that all kind of cleared out in my head, because I do feel like this is something that kind of also falls in the middle. So we probably would know these characters better by the time we get to this story. Once I had that all lined out, this reads very well.
Yeah.
It's a little heartbreaking story once you understand what Nick is preparing to do. And it's building us into this world, this dystopia.
Yeah.
And
it is a dystopia.
And just the descriptions that we get about what's happening in the world, these combat trials, and the last one was set in downtown San Antonio. It gives me like Hunger Game vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought that it was very enjoyable. I did have to read a few times. Some things I had to like repeat read because I was like, wait, who is this person? Yeah, it was like the characters. I was just like, wait, who is this person to the main character and etc. And it took me a couple of reads to realize that Lena, as far as I know, unless there's some incest going on, which is possible.
It is.
But as far as I know, Lena is the only non-family member. I don't know about Jess, but everybody else is related. I was pretty weirded out by whenever his mom was about to go to bed and he was like, he felt his mother's lips begin to move against his skin as she whispered the only words any of them needed to hear. I love you, Nikki.
Yeah.
And that was creepy. I don't know if that's what you were going for.
That is legitimately the only part of this story that felt odd, off, and creepy.
And it made
the rest
me
of it really feels very wholesome.
And it literally made me think back and think, okay, when my mom kissed me, did I ever literally take mental note of the way her lips felt against my skin? And the answer is no, I did not.
So we get our first representation of the setting a little late in the story. I think I would like to see it presented that they're outside a little bit earlier.
That makes sense. It reminds me of some movie, which I don't remember. Was it Ashton Kutcher in this movie? I think, where it's like everybody they live as long as their money can pay for. And like if you're in debt, then your lifetime like goes drastically down.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't remember, but this does remind me of that because your financial obligations, your debt, like decides your whole life, the course of your life. And so the poor people all live like really short because they're in debt. They're having to borrow money to like survive or to keep their family alive or something.
Yeah, and the means that they're incurring debt in this world is intriguing. We know nothing about it, but we learn later from the conversation between Paul and Nick, Nick's dad, that for God only knows for what reason you've been trying to get ahead of it ever since you turned 16 and saw your notice of accrued debt in the mail. So in this world, a 16-year-old has accrued debt to this society. We're assuming some sort of monetary debt that needs to be paid back in some way. And so in what way is this 16-year-old accruing debt that must be paid?
It could be that he's trying to take care of his family.
It could be, yeah.
And that he's taking out loans or something like that to try to provide, that's possible.
Yeah. It just seems odd at such a young age to already have accrued debt to the point that he's been stressed about it since then, up until however old Nick is at this point in the story, to go off and basically sign himself up for indentured servitude to attempt to pay down his debts here.
Yeah.
And just what would you think about Dad, about Paul?
He seemed very daddish to me.
Yeah. He's got all the mannerisms.
Yep, he reminded me of my own dad as far as being like, let's not tell your mom just yet. I'm not mad at you. I understand what you're doing. My dad has literally said these things to me, like crazy decisions I've made. He's like, where my mom would freak out, my dad would be like, no, I'd probably do the same thing if I were you. It just strikes me as very dad-like behavior.
Yeah, and it just continues throughout this conversation. Whenever he comes around and mentions like the fact that he signed up for this on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we're not going to tell your mom. It's like, did you do that on purpose? Because if you did, I will be mad at you. And he's like, no, I didn't do that. And then we get this, you go and die out there and it'll kill your mother. You hear me?
Yeah.
You hear me? That's such a dad thing to say. So you really pull in the father-son conversation very effectively.
And even the father-daughter conversation, because again, these are similar to conversations that I had with my dad.
Oh, and yeah.
Just it'll kill your mom. It won't kill me because I get it. You got to do you and live your life and make your, place in this world. And I get that. It's like dads are just so like, hey, you do you, I do me, you do you. I get it.
Yeah, the laissez-faire.
Yeah, and just like kind of individualism. Whereas moms, they kind of like are the same person as you. Like they're totally attached to you. Like whatever happens to you happens to them. But dads are like, hey, I get that you have to live your own life and do things the way that you want to do them.
Yeah, I like the independent word for that.
Yeah.
Whereas moms have the codependent mentality.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just the characterization that we get between Nick and Paul is very effective. And I really like that we're getting some background to Nick and where he comes from, and setting up more of the world here.
Yes.
It's still very unclear.
Yes.
The world isn't
the dystopia.
Yeah, it is very, very dystopia.
The bad place.
The bad place. All right, what else you got?
That's all I got.
All right. Yeah, just in general, Richie, I really did like this story. And clearly you have either been working on this for a while. So I'm just glad to have more pieces to this. So thank you.
Yes. Enjoyed it.
All right. And last we have The Powder Thief by Nick Yu. All right, so what you got?
I quite enjoyed the archetype thing. I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed that most of the characters are female.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that because it is so, well, you don't realize how lopsided things are until the exception proves the rule. So when all of these characters were female, almost all of them, then I really noticed that. And I was like, oh, they're all female, almost all of them. Whereas if they were all male, you wouldn't notice that. It would just be normal to me.
No, I noticed the exact same thing.
Yeah, so the fact that it really like stood out and we were like, oh, they're all female, that just proves how uncommon that is and how being male is the norm.
Yeah, and it seems like Nick Yu does this kind of on the reg. So we get usually a strong female lead from Nick Yu, and the fact that we have basically an all-female, I'll call it cast here in this party that's traveling together. We've got a female soldier, a female pyromancer, a female gunslinger, and the shepherd, the enduring shepherd, also female.
Yes.
So we get all of these characters or character types, I guess I should say, that we would normally imagine as male. Because you think shepherd, you think male. You think gunslinger, male. Soldier, obviously a dude.
Right.
So the just turning all of that on its head is very interesting. And like Rachel said, the archetype aspect was also interesting, and it strikes me as sort of meta. Because you have archetypes within stories. I think there's even a point within the story that we hear that adventures and stories are adventures and stories are always a hassle, is a quote from our gunslinger.
Yes.
So it kind of strikes me as a bit of, it could be a potentially meta story, or they really in this world give strong significance to what stories are and the roles that they play, and the fact that we are telling this through a story can make it feel metatextual.
Yes. And it seems that from what I could interpret, the only male character, the paladin, is gay.
Where'd you see that?
I noticed the paladin was already drunk and wasting the time of several women who were trying to talk to him while he ogled a muscular farmer, showing off his strength by ripping wood apart.
Yeah, you're right. So that was actually an instance where I thought the paladin was a female as well. I missed the he designation for the ogled a muscular farmer. I thought the paladin was another woman.
Well, yeah, and all the women are trying to talk to him.
Yeah. Interesting. I had missed that as our only male character is ogling this dude here. Yeah.
Yes.
So Nick, I will say that the structure of your story here feels a little frantic. It we seem to be moving through a lot of these ideas and these characters and the setting very kind of rapid fire. Also the paragraphs, I can't even necessarily consider anything a paragraph. Granted, a lot of this is dialogue, but I feel like we can kind of consolidate some of these things so that we know we know that we're sticking in some narration for a little while. So the first 6, I'll call them paragraphs, like breaks that we get, I think we can kind of consolidate some of that down and dedicate yourself to either describing a person or a place or the people within a place, and just really give us some of those details in a block of text. And then whenever you're moving into the dialogue, really start to break it out kind of the way that you have. It just felt a little disjointed, and at times it felt a little stilted as well. But it was a little difficult for me to follow.
Yeah, it was sometimes hard to follow.
Yeah.
One thing that Matt also highlighted, beautiful women bearing food and drink climbed the hill in pursuit. In pursuit of what? I had to go back and read the last couple of paragraphs before that because I thought I was missing something. I couldn't figure out what do you mean? What's happening here? The words in pursuit are confusing. So it was just like the beautiful women are these like servant type women who are just bringing food and drink. Okay, that's one thing. But it just didn't really make sense.
Yeah. And further, not too far away from that, the shepherd looked to still be responsible, at least organizing some people to get firewood. We haven't been introduced to the shepherd up until this point, and for them to still be anything is a little incongruous.
That's
with
true.
With being introduced to a new character again. We could be in the middle of a story and we would already potentially know about the shepherd. So
right, but the word still, I think if you just took that out in this story, in this excerpt, that would make more sense. The shepherd looked to be responsible, at least. And then you introduce who is the shepherd. But the word still doesn't really work here.
Yeah. Yeah, and just in general, I feel like we're moving through a lot of this very quickly. I would like some more time in these settings with some of these characters. It felt a little rush, and it felt a little difficult to follow. And I believe, Nick, you mentioned that you hoped this wasn't too inscrutable. It actually did feel a little inscrutable, at least with our understanding, or I should say lack of understanding of the characters up until this point.
Yeah, so that just like goes back to one of the points that we've discussed with other people's stories and in previous episodes, which is give the appropriate time to each thing, each character, each thing that's happening. Like if you're going to introduce it, give it its appropriate time.
Yeah, give it the space, give it the weight. I would rather have too much information about a scene, like give us more description about a scene than what is necessary.
But don't do us like Tolkien.
Yeah, I don't want them hillocks and shit.
No.
But just in general, I think you could really stand to lean into one aspect of this story. Feels like we're trying to do a lot of things in the words that you've given us here, and it just got to the point that it was really difficult to follow. I will say that. All that to say, it does seem intriguing.
It does. I quite like it.
Yeah, and I really do like the female cast that you've given us here.
And I like the archetype idea. I really like that.
Yeah.
How everyone's like fulfilling this archetype.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
All right. That is our last story for this week, and moves us right on into week 2 of long form stories.
Yay!
So the idea is that if you would like, or if you need some inspiration for your long form story, we ask you to write about a wise old woman character. Write her into your story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just drop her on in there.
Just drop her in and see what you can do. And the words for episode 15 are confidence, banana, barrel, party, and cycle. About confidence. You got us a definition?
Confidence, well, it's either a belief in something or it could be secret in confidence. In secret, like I'm telling you this in confidence. It's a noun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a banana.
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 A banana. This is a fruit. It's yellow. It's in an arc shape. It's delicious, especially when it is ripe, in my opinion. The riper, the better. I like brown bananas.
Okay, so I had a friend who his brother would take bananas and put them in the fridge and leave them for so long they're just black, just solid black by the end of it, and he would squeeze them out like Go-Gurt.
Oh wow! Okay, I can kind of get on board with that. I mean, gross but delicious.
Yeah, it's kind of gross, but
delicious. It's like banana bread state.
Yeah, basically, but you don't bake it into banana bread.
I mean, that's weird, but also delicious to me.
Yeah, it's extremely weird.
Banana can also be in the plural bananas, and that means crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's bananas in here.
Bananas.
The shit is bananas. Bananas.
How about barrel?
Barrel. This can be a noun or a verb. So, as a noun, it's a container which you put things in. It's like the thing that a Saint Bernard wears around his neck, but a miniature one.
Oh.
And he puts chapstick and things in it.
Chapstick. Isn't it supposed to be, was it brandy that they actually carried up mountains?
Oh, really? I thought it was chapstick.
I thought it was, I don't pretend to know. I
All
thought
right.
it was some kind of like liquor.
It's meds. It could contain a flask of brandy, a chapstick, and a roll of gauze.
Yes. And also, of course, you have wine barrels, whiskey barrels, very common.
Right.
And coopers make barrels.
Okay.
So someone who makes barrels is a cooper.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah.
But it can also be a verb.
Yes, to barrel towards something. Yes.
Yeah, which is funny. It can also be a hyphenated adjective, like a barrel shaped, a barrel.
Like barrel chest.
Yeah, barrel chested person.
Yeah.
It can be a lot of things. Barrel. I personally like to say barrel. Barrel. When I say it.
Yeah.
Nobody ever knows what I'm talking about, but I like to say it.
Like Steve Burrell.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
How about party?
Party. Well, this can be a fun event. It can also be a group, for example, a political party, which we won't go into right now. It can also be a verb. Let's party.
Hell yeah, let's party.
Yeah. Which, well, can also mean to do cocaine.
Yeah.
Do you like to party? Do you want to party? If you're ever at a party, I tell my students, if you're ever at a party and somebody asks you if you want to party,
that's a pretty clear sign.
Offering
Something's
you
up.
cocaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Party, at least in the 80s.
That's hilarious. If you're ever at a party and somebody walks up to you and asks if you want to party,
Yeah.
that's probably a clear sign that there's some cocaine.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and also it can be an adjective. Party Mexican.
Oh my God.
That's actually not what I was going for, though. Party to something. I will not be a party to that.
Okay. I will not be a party to that.
Oh, actually, that's a noun.
That is a noun, yeah.
I will not be. Well, you can say I will not be party to that. Can't you? Without the word a?
I'm curious. Yeah.
Because in that case, it would be an adjective.
Not party city. Boo.
No. I will not be party to that.
Noun, verb, participle, nary an adjective.
I disagree. I think it can be an adjective. I will not be party to that. In that case, it's an adjective.
Yeah. I have heard it as I will not be party to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's a very diverse word.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, cycle.
Cycle can refer, it's a noun or a verb. Is a verb, it can be to bicycle, to cycle.
Mm-hmm. Or to cycle through.
Oh, yeah. To cycle through something.
Yeah.
Yes.
You cycle through your laundry.
All right.
Your wardrobe.
As a noun, it is a cycle. It's like a cycle. It's like a period of time rotating around through something.
Yeah.
It can also be the monthly cycle.
Yes. The lunar cycle.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be any type of cycle.
Yeah. Generally, like.
It can also be a bicycle.
Yeah, literally could just, as a noun, be a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or even a tricycle.
Yeah. A trike.
Yeah. Trike.
It could be a trike. It could be all types of items.
And like a cycle of stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cycle of anything.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's our words for episode 15. We've got confidence, banana, barrel, party, and cycle.
Banana.
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 I like bananas. The song.
This okay.
Bananas, but mangoes is sweet, and I like papaya.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You say papayas,
Papayas.
but nothing can be. Shooby-doo-wop. I'm not making this up. This is a real song.
Well, if you want to be like these wonderful writers and submit your story to You Write, head on over to our subreddit at reddit.com/r/youwritepod.
If you're unable to submit a story this week, that's fine. You can help out by reading and commenting on other people's stories.
Each time you post a story or leave a comment on someone else's submission, you increase your chances of having your story read on the podcast.
You can also reach us at youwritepod@gmail.com.
If you like our show and want to help support us, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/youwrite.
If you're unable to donate, that's fine. You can help us by sharing the podcast with other writers and non-writers alike.
And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you know as soon as new episodes are available.
Also, be sure to leave us a rating and review in your podcatcher of choice.
We will be reading one review on each episode, so get creative.
And remember, join us next week on You Write,
A podcast where you write.